Chat series. I'm your host, Meg Kruger. I am joined by my co-host, Weston Appenfeller, and we both are joined by Brian McDougal. He is the Assistant Sports Field Manager for Michigan State University. And this past Saturday, they lost greatly to our Ohio State University. And I think Weston, there we go. Thank you, Weston. And that's where we'll leave it, folks. That's the only harassment we will bring into the chat today, at least directed towards our guest. Weston and I, all bets are off in that arena.
I think we have a common ally, or maybe I'm wrong, but I think we have a common ally of who we hate, and so we can
Correct.
certainly appreciate that. We did have Jason DeMink on a few months ago, though, at Michigan, and I kept it civil with him. So, but
Well,
no,
that one, it's
welcome
like
to the show.
we're on a downside with him right now. We have to kind of, bide our time in that situation. But yes, welcome to the show, Brian. We're happy to have you. And you were actually the first person that I reached out to during COVID. It was like probably March 17th we connected.
Correct. Yes.
It was something crazy like that. And I don't remember if it was Craig O'Berry or if it was James Salavity, but they were like, hey, listen, all my grounds guys who are always way too busy to talk to you are all at home. Like, give them a call today. And you were the first one I called up. And I can see the picture that we posted with the article that we wrote with you. And it was like you and your two kids at a kitchen table, like working on a little pail of grass. So we've
I was,
come a long way from there.
yeah, kind of wild. I never would have thought, to the day. It's, 4 years ago, I was coming out of winter, kind of ready to go, getting the notification of being out, going home.
Yeah.
That picture I still have saved, kind of to where my boys were and where they are now. I was growing HD Sport bluegrass indoors with a grow lamp and a space heater. Got it to germinate in 12 days, and moved into a forever home just right off of Lake Huron just shortly after I talked to you, kind of
Nice.
right at COVID time, and then really less than a year after that got the call from Michigan State, and to see where I'm at in my career and family life 4 years later, it's kind of crazy. Now we're talking about maybe the next surface in Spartan Stadium might even be HD Sport.
Wow, full circle moment for sure. That is
Yeah.
so cool. And that's what we want to get into really today is the whole enchilada, the A to Z of Brian McDougal, how turf came on your radar, all the steps along the way, and then really dive into the current position. But we love to start off the show kind of not talking about turf. So I'm going to pass it over to Weston. He's got a question to kick us off here.
Yeah, it's hard to remember that turf is our livelihood, right? Like that's everything that we live and we love to do. But the family side of it's absolutely the more important side. And I heard you mentioned a couple of kids there. Tell us about your family, and then what you do to get away from work. How do you get outside of the office? So.
Yeah, family. It's all about the balance. You definitely have to have the healthy balance to have the healthy work life. I have two great boys, Henrik, who just turned 7 this past week, and Maverick, who is 10 years old. We love the state of
Great
Michigan.
name.
We grew up on the lake, my wife and I, of going on 15 years. Love the water. Now we are in the world of youth sports. So
Yeah.
flag football practice tonight. We travel to the west side. My older son plays on a travel lacrosse team. I have two younger brothers that played collegiately, and then one of my brothers coached the D1 club team out of Western Michigan. So even though I didn't play lacrosse, it definitely runs deep in my family now.
Mhm.
So kind of full circle. My two boys play on this travel lacrosse team out of town that my brother, while at Western Michigan, helped start.
Very cool.
So they, of course, say I'm the better looking brother. So yeah, Sunday I'll be getting up at 6 a.m., heading to a lacrosse tournament, leaving a lacrosse tournament early for my older son to then make it to AAU basketball tryouts. So
Very cool.
yeah, balancing the youth sports life and my wife and I of 15 married for 15 years. Been dating since high school, graduated in 2005. We're looking forward to our long weekend away in the Florida Keys in December.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
That's really sweet. And Weston, he also married his high school sweetheart. So you guys have that common ground.
And Meg knows everything about vacations, so you can
dig number one. There it is.
I had played hockey, golf, and tennis growing up, and while my previous job back in my hometown, I moved back and I was a goalie coach for the high school team that I graduated with, and we had our assistant coach, who was also my goalie coach, passed away while I moved back home, going on 10 years now, and he's had said something that has always stuck with me, and he always said, always make time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we love our kids and we'll do anything for them. My wife and I, thankfully, we have our grandparents. My mom and dad are going to come over and help out for the time that we're away, but it's going through the rigors of the football season and the growing season. It's definitely, even if it's just a couple days or it's a day date, it's definitely very important to make time for yourself, and with the mental health aspect of what we do as well. Not afraid to admit it. This year has been a test, not physically, but more mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely important, and we look forward to getting away.
Definitely. And lacrosse used to definitely. And I think lacrosse used to be one of those safe sports where it was like, it was one of those things where your kids would maybe have a practice once a week, then like one game, but the steady incline of its popularity and, a safer alternative than, contact football, it is like you are down in the like trenches now with that sport. It is an all in, all out type affair.
even at the young ages, I think it's every sport seems to cross over with, basketball helps out lacrosse, soccer helps out, hockey, football, contact. It's definitely fun. I never played it growing up. Would've. We're actually down with our lacrosse team. We get it's an intense 6 weeks right out of school, and week one we're actually down in Cincinnati. So that's our first 6 weeks are from Cincinnati to Chicago to the west side of Michigan. So yeah, but still very fun.
That's intense.
Very cool. Great answer.
I have 2 boys and I'm hoping they both one wants to be like into e-games and the other one wants to be like a violinist. Like I don't know how I'll handle youth sports.
Yeah. YouTube superstars.
Yes. That's too good. Well, yeah, let's take it all the way back to the beginning. First question for you that's, more turf based is, how did it really come on your radar? How did, was it through athletics of your own, or was it something else that, made this seem like a valuable career option for you?
The start was just a family friend of my mom's. He was the local golf course superintendent at the local private club. And that was the same time, turning 16. It was time to get out, and hockey is an expensive sport. If you wanna continue playing hockey, buy those goalie pads, equipment, goalie skates. You can start start paying stuff off and having a summer job. So I think my very first job was probably either 1 week at McDonald's or one season, less than a season, cleaning dishes at another golf course. And the only benefit was I got to hit range balls after
Nice.
my done. But late nights cleaning dishes after a wedding, I knew that wasn't a job that I could sustain through, up until college. Kind of anyone that is in this industry has that love for outdoors and the start for mowing grass. My oldest son has been warned this year as a fifth grader. Sixth grade summers is the year that he starts mowing the grass until I'm not happy with it, of course.
Nice.
But yeah, at 16, right at the local country club, and that is honestly the only job that I've ever had is in turf. I spent all my winters playing hockey, so it was really tough to sustain a job even through the high school year. So it's honestly always been turf.
Yeah.
Bounced around, never really honestly thought that it was going to be turf. Right out of high school, community college, I was set ready to go into architecture.
Okay.
Spent 4 years of architecture, CAD drawing, in high school, and still draw to the day. Just really love that avenue. And I think what was a deciding factor in that was just sitting in a small room for 3 hours with people I couldn't even understand, and they gave me rubber bands and egg and just 12-inch sticks, and they said, "Here, suspend this egg 12 inches above the ground without cracking." And I think I remember sitting in that room for 2 hours and 50 minutes out of the 3 hours in just sheer panic.
Nice. That's what did it for you. Well, I do have to say my dad is a 3-time egg drop contest winner. And my brothers and I used to religiously watch those videos of him winning the egg drop competition. So when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, you have similar roots, but that's what got you out of the profession.
It was the funniest thing too, because it was a local, it was Detroit Mercy, and I'm sitting watching all these potential students, and they're probably architects by now, of course, and they're cutting these rubber bands in half and making baskets to suspend these eggs, and I basically just bunched all these balsa wood sticks up in groups and kind of made what resembled the old World Trade Center. And it's, of course, you have to pick this up. All the parents are standing outside, look finished products, and mine held the egg. But kind of funny enough that it was something that the professors made reference to. You could have this elaborate design structure still supported this egg, or you could go the simple just four sides and it kind of accomplished the same thing. So
Very cool. Very cool. So after, spending some summers at the golf course, where did you go next? After college, what was your next step?
Yeah, my first taste of kind of the athletic field side of turf management was an article that I think it was GCM magazine that my boss at the time from the golf course showed me, and it was Doug Gallant from the Cincinnati Reds.
Okay, very cool.
And I remember seeing this article, and I can still picture it. I'm like, man alive, just the level of detail put into such a small area. And I'm very type A, OCD, and I'm like, just looking at this detail within such a small space, you can't put just a post and rope up around a certain area on an athletic field or put ground under repair. So that was kind of my first insight into the athletic field side of sports turf, and get accepted into the Michigan State 2-year program. And that was kind of just what had guided me toward the athletic field side of it. Mm-hmm. And the coincidentally, the very first athletic field I ever stepped on was the day our intro to turf class went and met Amy Foudy at the time. So my very first athletic field was Spartan Stadium.
That is really cool. There are very few people that have that experience. And I do think Nicole Sherry, though, that's her experience as well, as her turf class like went to Orioles Stadium, and that's where she's, spent her career. And that always like has stuck with me. So it's very cool to meet someone else who, yeah, like your first exposure ended up being, your long-term gig, which is very cool. And Nicole Sherry's not bad company to keep, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And I'll never forget just how, kind of how the chain events and the networking is so important in this industry. I remember going back to my dorm room as a student after seeing Spartan Stadium, and I'm like, I have to do whatever it takes to work here as a student. And it was just a simple email to Amy saying, hey, what do I have to do? How can I work here full time this following year? My spring internship was AAA Indianapolis Indians under Joey Stevenson, but I knew that this was a place I wanted to transition into as soon as I got back after my internship. And thankfully, Jared Noodle, who is the assistant down at Old College, our baseball softball facility, he was moving on for the Giants, and that created that opening for that position to then become a student, kind of the only paying student position on Michigan State staff at the time.
Very cool. So that's what you filled when you came back from the internship?
Yes, just kind of the student working position, and then that led into kind of the graduated sports turf internship under Amy and Andy, my boss, because I'm transitioning from the 2-year sports turf degree into the 4-year bachelor's degree.
Okay, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then you spent your time there kind of simultaneously going to school. And then when you and I connected, you were, like almost contracting or painting fields. Were you still working with Michigan State, or what had happened in between that time?
So from student to intern, at that time I was a student, roughly 2007, 2008. At that time, just the general grounds was taking care of what we call Old College fields, our baseball facility, softball, soccer facility. It's all a very beautiful complex on our campus, separate from our football facility. Amy was just overseeing just strictly football, Spartan Stadium and the practice football facility, nothing else. But as we that was kind of the boom in college athletics. You start to see the stadiums go up, stadium renovations, turf renovations. That created, while I was still a student, an assistant position down at Old College Field. So for kind of a year, I would just say 2 seasons, not even 2 full years, I was the assistant in charge of the baseball, softball, soccer facility at Michigan State. Was fortunate. Our baseball team won a Big Ten championship, so that was very cool to experience. But then as soon, kind of got to a point where I was kind of ready to, I felt like I was just ready to move on. My wife and I were just getting married at the time, kind of ready to go out and kind of explore, something outside of the state of Michigan.
Of course.
That then transitioned into a couple years down at a very large Parks and Rec down in Fishers, Indiana.
Okay, yes.
Yes, and that was under a guy named Evan Buckley and Sean O'Grady, a Purdue graduate and a Buckeye. Both
very nice.
And then the network to that was Evan was the assistant on my internship while with the Indians.
Okay.
Yeah, another great experience, ginormous staff, millions of dollars, 1,500 acres of just Parks and Rec, we felt like we could do anything and everything with kind of crazy enough, just little league baseball fields, multi-use. I mean, that was the demand in a very nice suburb of Indianapolis. Even though we were 6 hours away, we kind of got homesick, missed the state of Michigan, and just one day out of the blue, my mom gives me a call, who is a retired teacher in Port Huron, Michigan. She's like, "Hey, you'll never believe there's actually a position that they've kind of created in Port Huron. Go up there." It was a 3-hour interview. The guy, my boss at the time, the facilities manager, dug deep, found out every sport that I played, my GPA, knew everything about me, and got offered that position. And 9 years later, never thought that position would be something that it was. Really got to create a position from the ground up. Zero synthetic fields. Everything is still natural grass.
Wow.
And transitioning out of that, I was kind of the first turf manager with a degree and a little bit of experience, and now they were able to hire another student right out of Michigan State. So it's very rewarding to see that they value that position, even though I've moved on.
Yeah, that is incredible. So that brought you guys back home, and you spent 9 years there. And then that brings us to the current position, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it was probably less than a year that you and I spoke right before COVID. Less than a year later, I knew that Amy, a mentor of mine, she was moving on from her position at Michigan State, and I had always stayed in touch with her, always stayed in touch with Andy, traded ideas, even at the high school level. Would come back to Michigan State, volunteer on game days. Stayed in touch with Amy, knew that she was moving on, and it was just kind of a random day out of the blue in March that Andy gave me a call and said, "Hey, this is my vision. I've been promoted, and I want somebody full time in Spartan Stadium." So went through the hiring process, became the certified sports field manager. Kind of just one of those things to set myself apart from potential candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, really here we are. So yeah, my day-to-day responsibilities are just the maintenance of Spartan Stadium. That is all I do. Is all day, every day, eat, sleep, Spartan Stadium.
I love that.
How did some of those early positions help you gather the skill set, whether it be either in the field or communications or budgeting or whatever that you now have now that you use at Michigan State at Spartan Stadium?
The Parks and Rec, that was my first time leaving Michigan State and kind of
Mm-hmm.
that Division I collegiate athletic, and I'll never forget seeing just at the time, not to throw Michigan State under the bus, but at the time they were all Dura Edge baseball infields at this little league softball baseball complex. And opening day, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's kind of hard to believe that I can be at the Parks and Rec level and we can have infields and turf and pitching mounds that are the same quality of the Division I college. And that's kind of, even though it seems only less than 12 years ago, that was kind of when the boom and the demand for producing, doesn't matter what level you're at, just the safe, playable, aesthetically appealing surfaces. And it doesn't really matter what type of athlete, there's just a demand for it at every single level. And I came into that position, a Michigan State graduate. We had our superintendent from Purdue, and then we had our director was a high-end golf course superintendent. So the level of experience that we brought at that level, definitely showed. We tried to, even though the budget and the resources were there, we realized that we had the staff, and as long as we could train them, we could do everything in house. So we were supported in, if it was leveling a baseball infield with a laser grader, it was easier just to buy that piece of equipment and train multiple staff on it versus always contracting it out. So we trained as much as we could in house, in order to not have to contract it out. And that was a very big job. We had 1,500 acres. I remember mountains of conditioner, pallets of fertilizer stacked, 3 rows high. But everything was done in house, and that was my real first time where I really had to kind of step away from the doing and went more into the teaching role, just because of the scope of work. Transitioning to the school district, it was just me. And that was the toughest part of the job. If something had to get done, it was always me. My first week, I remember having to drive 60 miles just to find an adequate fertilizer spreader. Port Huron is an hour north of Detroit, hour and a half away from East Lansing. So we're kind of up in the thumb. There's not many resources available. All my product is coming from, potentially more than 60 miles away. And I found a site one in order to find just a push spreader. Was able to get a hold of my very first fall there. Had no vendors set up, but I knew what I wanted to do on this natural grass football field. Just wanted to make sure that I had grass come November, and it was a grass surface that supported 2 high schools. So for 9 weeks, we had a JV game on Thursday, a varsity game on Friday. So that's 18 football games, 3 band competitions, and you never know, if they were playoff contenders.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just want to make sure that I have grass. So, finding a double drum roller, the first 2 weeks of the job, trying to find adequate seed to put down. So that was the challenge starting out that job. The saving grace was I, show up to the job and I see that I have pails of Pioneer paint.
I was waiting for Craig to come in. The knight in shining armor to come into the picture.
Yeah. The knight in shining armor was great. And having that contact and, years down the road, getting the adequate sales reps and the vendor set up to like, really looking back on it is like, man, I was really fortunate and able to do a lot with the little. Going to Menards and buying a 40-gallon county line sprayer just to spray growth regulators and foliar products, to now being at Spartan Stadium and me using one of those products in my tank, talking to Andy and saying, hey, look, this product is, if I can do this out of a little backpack sprayer, the sky's the limit at that level. And now we put it out, weekly.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's, kind of a crazy story is, having the ties to the local golf club that I grew up on. I knew I needed to aerate these fields and aerify these fields at a school district, but didn't have the equipment, didn't have a pole behind, just something to poke holes. So having the local ties, I was able to negotiate just a per day rental contract with my old boss at the country club. It was based on 4 years. So, we spent $25,000 in 4 years just to rent a piece of equipment that we didn't own, a the really nice Toro Pro Core walk behind. Within those 4 years, my original boss had retired, and in comes a new boss, and he takes a look at this line item, and he's like, "Wow, look at what we've spent in the last 4 years. Why don't we just buy this piece of equipment?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm definitely all for it." So it's kind of crazy to think, and anyone listening, the sky's the limit. Whether it's a Parks and Rec, it's a school district, you can do anything at any level to achieve the end product that you want. And it's 2 seasons before I left for Michigan State. Next thing you know, we're purchasing a Toro Procore aerator, and there's golf courses and universities that may not have that resource to purchase that piece of equipment, and just kind of out of trial and error at the Parks and School District, I was able to accomplish that.
So very cool. And I think, from doing the groundskeeper chats for, almost 5 years now, I've caught on to like certain trends. Everyone has like, similar tipping points when things have happened in the industry. And definitely in the last, 5 years or so, it's been all about like earning a seat at the table and, the professionalism, of the groundskeeper, or, the event schedules that are, put on groundskeepers. But that was really one of the first times I think I've heard people put a timetable to, the trend or the transition to that kind of thinking, where it was, everyone can have a safe and playable field. It's not just, the NFL or the college stadiums, but we should be providing safe and playable conditions for every athlete. And I think you said about like 12 years ago, Weston, would you say that like falls, that kind of timeline where it was a transition in the industry, where it was kind of like everyone was getting on board that it wasn't about how much, it didn't need to be professional money. Like you can have these aspirations for your Parks and Rec, for your local communities.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would say somewhere 2008 to 2012 seemed to be about the right time. Where I think you also saw a boom then of some of the more local state ran chapter SFMA events,
Okay,
that
yeah.
really pushed to a high school level or Parks and Recs level or Little League level, that same knowledge from top to bottom. I think maybe before that, it seemed to be more of like a high college professional level. But really about that time period, and maybe it ties in with the same time that social media and people were sharing it more. And so maybe that's why it is more available or readily available.
Mm-hmm.
But you really started to see more of those events start popping up around the country, and I guess the level go from, knowledge is not only going to the higher end people that are members of the national SFMA, but the local chapters were also contributing at such a high level then that the real boom for safe athletic fields, I think, happened around that time. So, or
Mm-hmm.
at least
Very
that in
cool.
my eyes. Or maybe that's just when I was paying attention to it. Maybe it was well before that and I just didn't notice it. So,
Well, no, that is an interesting point of view, and it really just lends a hand to the other trends we see in the industry, and how I'm sure that was such a hurdle those first, even the whole decade, to get people on board that like, we can be putting money into these smaller community fields, things like that. Which is just, aspirational, that all the hurdles we're facing today could potentially one day be accomplished as well.
Is it okay if I
Fingers
do
crossed.
is it okay if I do a Pioneer Paint, like a little pitch? Uh,
Absolutely not. No, I'm kidding.
well,
Please, please.
it's a very good example of just my career path, and just something as beneficial as paint.
Mhm.
I've used um other reps, other brands, going to Port Huron schools, fortunate to have Pioneer Athletics in place, and multiple fields every single week. Whether it's, I think at one time in the fall, I was painting up to 9 football fields,
Wow.
2 or 3 soccer fields, high-end irrigated turf to lower end unirrigated middle school football fields that had just enough grass.
Yeah.
And I experimented with the growth regulators in the paint on unirrigated fields, various things like that, just because it's a lot to go through, just especially by myself. I mean, as mentioned, I was one painting the
A
field,
one-man band.
the one-man band, and
Mm-hmm.
fast forward, Michigan State, we're fortunate to use the product Quick Cure, and it is Craig O'Berry and James knows how much I love Quick Cure.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, starting when Quick Cure just took off, we were so ready for the Buckeyes to come into town, and we're like, they are not beating us this year. They're not the marching band is not dragging their feet through the Quick Cure and leaving the script OHIO. We have them. And then thankfully our administrative department said no Ohio State marching band on the field this year. So
Amazing.
product does exactly what we're looking for. Dry. It is an amazing product. I would love to go back to Port Huron schools and use Quick Cure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the price tag is a little bit more, but to know that product, I'm 100% certain that type of product would even work at the Parks and Rec, the school district level, because if I don't have to paint an irrigated football field for 3 weeks, that means I can go back and do, mound work or repair work. Craig O'Berry probably doesn't want to hear that because he might not buy as much paint, but it is a product like that helps out the turf manager at every single level, and improving efficiency, aesthetics, anything you want on the board. Just that simplicity in that product.
Definitely.
I think I could get a couple weeks out of the paint with the PGR, but a product like Quick Cure, for example, and its ability to dry, and it we're what is it, 3 or 4 days post Ohio State after 2 mows, and the paint is amazing still.
Look at that. Weston,
Yeah.
what were you going to say?
Yeah, I think we certainly love to hear that, obviously, being from Pioneer. I'd prefer it if you'd say, Pioneer Quick Cure like 8 more times, because that would be great. But I think going back to what we were talking about, and when that turn went to where, it become more of a all the way up through, is, if you look at maybe 2006 and prior, there was definitely specific, sports field products, but a lot of it was tied to golf courses, and we were just getting the hand-me-downs. And I think what you're seeing now is there's been a lot of notice taken that there are all these parks and rec and high schools and everything all the way up through that need a specific level of product. And that's what I think you see it obviously with our paint and all the different lines that you could have. And you mentioned obviously the one that's the highest. But there's other companies obviously that are focusing now on that. And I think that helped so much. You mentioned Dura Edge, right? Like Dura Edge being able to be used at a Little League field now is huge for what that local park is doing. And I think that has helped propel, at least in my eyes, a lot of it as well, is where you start seeing these safer fields at younger ages. We just have more products available. They're
And it
very specific to what we need.
Goes like hand in hand with like the professionalism of the groundskeeper as well. If they have access to, more resources, more products, they're only gonna, be able to get better at their job. But besides the Pioneer Paint and Craig O'Berry being the consistent, golden pillars in your career, what are some of the other elements of the industry that have been consistent throughout all these jobs that have really kept you in the industry? What are those things that when you have a bad day, you can rely on these elements, or when you think about your career as a whole, they're the things that, it kept fueling your fire all these years later?
Or who are the people
Yeah, really,
that helped with that too,
the
right?
roundabout way to get there.
Uh, well, of course, family first. It's to definitely very blessed to be back at Michigan State. It was always a dream of mine. Never would I have thought, Meg, when we talked 4 years ago, that I would be here in this moment. But at the same time, just knowing that I'm achieving a dream of mine at the same time, to be able to produce that quality of life for my two boys. In the area. I mean, it was tough moving away from our family. We moved away from our hometown. We had our roots there. The boys were born in Port Huron, but are now raised in the East Lansing area. Within the short time, my wife, who is a stylist and an educator in her own industry, has been able to open up a spa in the downtown DeWitt area. So her career has skyrocketed even more than mine in just a short term. So I like to think that she's very happy, and at the same point she's achieving her career goals as much as me, while providing that quality of life, which is most important to us for our two boys. It's really rewarding to know where they are sitting on a football game day, and to wave to them, and
that's really cool.
and to see that, not they came, they were there at the high school football nights, and but we love the college athletics side to it. Very, very grateful for the two of you, and for what you guys do, and all my mentors, everyone that I've worked for. And it's amazing how much you still can rely on them, even that they've provided just a small piece to your career. Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, we're, as a sports turf manager, we're not in it for the glory. I mean, it's the passion. I love, I'm trying to get better at this year, but my stomach is just in knots on a football game day.
Yeah.
And I really am working on trying to step back and enjoy that moment a little bit more. But at the same point, I enjoy when that stadium is empty again at 2 a.m. in the morning, after getting beat up by Ohio State, because I know that when I walk the field and Andy's vacuuming, and I look at it and I'm like, wow, this field really played good. I can fix it. And that, that is my challenge and my passion, to 2 weeks from now, to have Iowa come in and have our new coaching staff back in the stadium, to not notice that Ohio State football game was played on that surface in just 3 weeks.
Very cool.
Definitely in it. We're not in it for the glory. Very, very passionate, a lot of pride just with any manager at any level. Yeah. That's why we do it.
Well, and you can feel your pride for sure. Just you painting that picture of like the 2 a.m. walking the field, like that is really special. And that comes through really strong. It's very cool.
And there's no feeling like that. Like that is literally the best. When you're the only one out there, the stadium's empty, the pressure of whatever event is over. it is literally the best time to be a groundskeeper.
Yeah, and it's been for us in the fall football season, we've had an ideal fall. Our football schedule has us going on a game, off a game, on a game. So we have only played 3 games to date, but
Nice.
the challenge has been the new coaching staff and them wanting to practice in the stadium 48 hours before the game. So
Gotcha.
even though we've had three game scenarios, we've also had 2 scrimmages and 4 practices.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's also including the band wanting to come in and practice and the cheerleaders wanting to practice. So last year at this time we had already played 4 games. Last year the challenge was 4 games in a row. Under
Nice.
great growing conditions. We got to the 5th week and we're like, let's play one more. So now we're in our biggest break of 3 weeks. We only have 1 game in October, but the challenge will be the 3 games in November. So
Yeah.
November 2nd, November 22nd at 8 p.m. and then the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So
That's when Quick Cure is gonna really it's time to shine.
yeah, the
It's not having any time to paint. It's the only option.
the and that's where the challenge has been. What would be 2 full days of painting for us is having paint down on a Monday or Tuesday and then having a football team have a 3-hour practice on that paint
Yeah.
and having it hold up through a practice, knowing that we don't necessarily have the time to touch it up or repaint everything, and then hope that the weather is good on Friday to get a mow on it, clean it up, and then paint logos. This week we dealt with the depression of the hurricanes, so we were honestly living right. Got the paint down. The tarp went on the field on Friday afternoon, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, when is this thing gonna hit?" Kind of
Yeah.
watch, you know, West Lafayette, Purdue, getting rain, and we're like, "When is this gonna hit us?" And crazy enough, we woke up Saturday morning and hadn't got a drop, and then the next thing you know, we're making the decision of how quick we can get this tarp off. And get it just one more mow. We call it, our victory mow.
Mm-hmm.
Just to tighten it up. Ohio State, and not that every game's not important to us, but Ohio State and Michigan are definitely two of our games in our season that, for us at the college level, we call it our Super Bowl.
Yeah. You
At
bring
least
out the big guns.
at least for the first half of the game, every Michigan State fan is in their seats. It's a stadium of 75,000 fans. It's a different broadcast. It means a lot to us to be able to produce a surface for our department and for our team. So
Very cool.
yeah, very very happy to get out of that weather situation, and even for mid Michigan, we're experiencing a very mild dry spell now, so we kind of hope that it continues. So yeah, growing grass by the day and establishing it from seed, even for October. So we'll take advantage of it as long as we can, and the less plowing of snow, the better.
Definitely. Well, before we let you go, I've got one last question for you because, network definitely played a huge role in your career, as we just heard from your story. So if you were to, have a dream turf dinner date, who would be the people at your table? Like 2 to 3 turf celebrities, turf professionals that you want to spend an hour with, having dinner with, and just picking their brain about all things turf. Weston's like, oh
West
my gosh.
feller. Oh man, that's a tough question. I still I still am a fan of the golf course side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And high respect to what they do on a daily basis. The one name that kind of comes out to me would be maybe like Paul Latshaw.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he was at Muirfield Village, and just some things that he has mentioned in listening to podcasts and things like this have stuck with me. And something as simple of how quality of cut affects playability and turf grass health, and that's something that I've heard from him.
Love
um
that.
um oh man,
The tough question.
that's
I
that,
promised no.
that's
I promised
tough
no
question.
curveballs, but then I hit you with one.
we
And really, all I
uh
was doing was fishing for you to say Weston and I, and you failed the test.
well,
So
I was more interested if you were to say fast food restaurant, you have to have this at what you would go with. It has to be like crap
uh,
fast food, right? So
uh
that's funny.
yeah,
uh,
anybody in the NFL that is managing grass, we tune in. We love everything that we see. Um, Anybody in the NFL, I do have to give a shout out to Craig O'Berry, because it'd be a wild dinner.
that it would be.
Uh,
Well, yeah, Craig's gonna get like a bunch of notifications once this goes live. It'll be like, your name was mentioned 14 times in a Groundskeeper chat episode.
yeah,
But he's deserving of the praise. So, but Brian, sincerely thank you for, spending the time with us to give us your full story. It was very enjoyable. Lots of people along the way that, I hadn't realized you crossed paths with, but it all makes sense when you look at where you are today. So congratulations on, everything you've accomplished, and we're excited to see what comes next for you.
thank you
Good luck.
and appreciate all you guys do for the industry as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Good luck the
And
rest of the season.
yes,
Yes,
definitely. Good luck the rest of the season. And we'll have our eyes on any updates that we can get from Craig. So you have a great rest of your day, and you'll be hearing from us soon.
all right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right,
Yeah,
bye-bye.
we'll see you.
Bye.